Yes, the countdown is done. Hey, Rob. Hi. Hi, this is Michelle Trieste. I'm here with Rob DeRoma, and we are talking just how to get through life with all the twists and turns that we will run into, especially this holiday season. And Rob recently shared some information, just how we can get through some difficult times. But today we're going to share um, some extra special ways how to get through life's twists and turns using horses, right? So because we both love, we're just talking about nature, horses and motorcycles. And Rob, I'm going to meet up with Rob soon and experience the horses that help people. And why don't you share a little bit about that, Rob?
Yeah, sure. I have the pleasure of being able to run an equine facilitated learning program with a colleague of mine who is a 4+ decade veteran horse trainer with Arabian horses. She has, I believe, about 60 Arabian horses on her farm. And what we found specifically with the curriculum that we got certified in is Arabian horses are some of the most intuitive horses slash animals, and utilizing them in regards to trying to help people explore, manage, work through things in their life, work through challenges. It really brings it out fairly quickly because you can't lie to a horse. So if you're feeling some type of way and you're standing next to that horse is going to know well before you even know, most likely. So it's just a very unique kind of way to develop some sort of personal growth and understanding of self. So then you can
Right.
go and attempt to just navigate all the trials and tribulations through life, which is great.
Right, right, right. Um, so when we think about our career challenges, for instance, are there any examples that you could share that help someone just kind of face themselves to get past to the next level that they were trying to get to?
Yeah, I mean, we had a group come up. I believe now, what is it? Today's December 10th, about a month and a half ago. We had a corporate America law firm come up from New York City. About 10 people showed up, and we were really looking to help them develop some leadership skills, and some team building, in regards
Awesome.
to just trying to understand, maybe where everybody's kind of strengths and weaknesses were, and being able to help people kind of collaborate on that and go, well, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, so then let's try to utilize each other, excuse me, in this way. And we do an exercise with people where we have them lead the horse on a lead line. And a lot of times you'll see, for people who have never really been around a horse, um, the horse is leading them, they're not leading the horse. So we have
Right.
certain questions that we'll ask them as they're kind of going through the process. And one of them is always, so who do you think is leading? And a lot of times, we'll get all the horse, and we'll ask them with a follow up question of, hey, well, where else do you see that in your life? And this woman was like, oh, my kids. And we were like, well, what do you mean?
Oh,
She's like, well,
snap.
my kid, anything my kids want, I just go and do it. Or, and I'm just like, well,
Oh,
how are your kids then? And then I took it and said, well, how do you see that maybe translate to your career or your workplace?
oh,
And she was like, I just feel extremely stressed all the time because I have 50 million things being thrown at me, and I just feel like I have to do them all the time, like can't stop, take a breath for myself or anything like that.
ooh.
So just
Oh,
having just that little snippet of literally a 2-minute exercise with a horse, and her kind of understanding that about herself, and something that we could take and process a little bit more as we did later on in the session. um, just that little snippet, I feel like, where if I'm sitting in my office, because I'm a trained psychotherapist, that would have taken me 3 to 4 months to probably pull out of somebody. And the
how much
fact
money
that,
you save by doing that, right?
exactly right, you know what I
That's
mean?
right,
So
that's a
hang
good
out
look
with
at
the
it.
horse for a couple minutes, instead of 3 or 4 months of sessions with me. But again,
That's
there's
great.
different ways to go about getting things out of people. But specifically with horses, because humans have been so involved with them for over 5,000 years. And it is one of the only wild animals that humans have been able to actually collaborate with, not just like train like a dog or a cat. Like they
Wow.
literally collaborate with them. Like, I mean,
Gee.
think about it. Like,
Keeps it
uh,
real.
well, countries were born on the backs of horses. I mean, look at America before, like, the whole Industrial Revolution. How do you think everything was going? All okay, horse and buggy, out in the fields, doing their crop with a horse. All right. And
Wow.
Arabian horses specifically were in obviously Arabia. And they were, when a person had an Arabian horse, they stayed in the tents with them. The kids would be
Really?
yeah, the kids would be playing at their feet. Okay, so if an Arabian horse is coming right at you, they
Uh-huh.
won't run into you. They'll go around you. They'll sidestep you. Okay, they will not trample you. All right, and a big piece
Wow.
is because of that. They were also used as a sign of wealth, where if you had a horse, all right, it was almost like currency that you can exchange. Okay,
Right.
so
Right.
very majestic creatures that you can really learn a lot from just by literally being around them, let alone all the exercises.
Right, right. Wow. And this group, this corporate group that came, were they from this New York City or from
Yeah,
the
they were
Connecticut?
from it was a law firm from New York City. They're
Okay.
actually all over the world. We just got their New York group. We had about
Okay.
nine or 10 people come up. We did a whole morning afternoon with teaching them why we're using horses, teaching them what is called somatic experiencing, which I'll get
Oh,
into a little
somatic.
later. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Teaching them about how to get in their bodies to try to get things out. Um,
Mm,
Teaching them about how sensitive the horses are to you and why you
mm.
can't lie to them, and then also teaching them how to respond versus react to how they feel. That's one of the
Right,
biggest things that's incorporated in our program is
right,
really, hey, listen, this is how you're initially reacting to your emotions. Let's see if we could change that up by getting you to respond to it by understanding certain things behind what that emotion is really saying.
right. I mean, it really, it sounds so beautiful how nature and the horse is so majestic and bring out that freedom from inside, and you have more control and output the way, and in a more natural way. So then you
Yeah.
have less stress because you're not combating yourself and
Yes. I can't tell you how many times I see that from people where they're getting in their own way from really being able to access the type of freedom that they're looking for, whether it's
yeah,
on an emotional level, spiritual level, or physical level for that matter.
right.
I have a colleague of mine who deals with chronic pain patients, and we were talking about trying to get them to come up and
Mm,
do the exercises with the horses because we had previous groups where we had participants come who did talk about chronic pain, and we always express to them, well, listen, just take notice of that, because we have an exercise where we ask them, take notice if there's any tension in your body, and just take
right.
notice of it. We're not trying to change it or anything, just take notice of it, and we'll check back in with you closer to the end of the day after we do some activities with the horses, and you let us know how you're feeling.
Mm,
And the people who had any kind of chronic pain that was going on, 100% of them said by the end of the session that it went from like either 7, 8, 9 to 3, 4, 5, 6.
right,
So
right, right,
just knowing that okay, being around a certain being and being that present, all right, can give you freedom of mobility to a degree where because of the chronic pain maybe you couldn't access certain movements or do certain things. Now with by associating with the horse for a couple hours, we're a little bit more relaxed and hey, wow, I have a little bit more mobility, I have a little bit more control over what I'm doing. So
right, right,
it's
right,
multifaceted really in regards to how these creatures can help people.
right. I mean, I love that you kind of do the data. You
Yeah.
do the pre um overview, and then sensing to see where they're at, work with them, and then at the end, here's your output. So I that's really valuable too, because I always say that having resilience and building resilience has to do with first connecting to yourself
Yes.
and to move through and to build resilience really takes an awareness of yourself
Yeah.
and how you react to things, and to strengthen.
Hmm.
So how often when you work with clients, how often will you bring them sometimes to visit with the horses? And what does that look like for
So
on a
we have,
personal level?
yeah, so we have two different programs. We have one
Okay.
program that's 1 day, and we take it in groups as small as 5, as large as 10. And our
Okay.
1 day program is basically just really focusing on getting a somatic experience of exercises that we have to get a person in their body. And then we
Right.
do a lot of different types of leading work. And then we also do, depending on the group that we have, we'll do some team building exercises. So for our leadership one, what we'll do is we'll have everybody lead a horse, determine who's leading, who's not. We'll have them do it a couple times so that they get a little comfortable actually leading. And then what we'll do is then we'll have somebody else link arms with them, and they can't talk, and they have to lead the horse, and they also have to do like a unspoken stop with the horse as well. So what you really see is you could really determine who's really connecting with the horse and the other person. All right, and who has some strong leadership skills, who may need a little bit more, who's more of the follower and needs a little bit stronger leadership skills. All right, so that's just like one of the activities that we do when we have more of like a corporate America type feel to it.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
when we have more of like maybe a mental health and a substance abuse kind of flair to it, what we'll
Okay.
do is we'll actually grab the horses, throw them out to pasture, and we'll have them kind of pay attention more behaviorally to what's going on. All right, so for instance, a huge one in regards to connecting with yourself and connecting with others is boundary setting. And
That's so
when
important.
we have clients that are coming in that do have some mental health, that do have some substance abuse issues, a lot of times there's a very strong lack of boundaries. And that's a lot of times because of maybe the home that they grew up in. Maybe there was alcoholism in the home. So when that happens, there's really no boundaries at all. So then the behaviors I start seeing are people pleasing. So I get a lot of people going, oh, does the horse like that? Oh, does the horse like me? Like I want to make like a really good connection with them, but like, is the horse really going to like me? And they're emphasizing so much and so worried about other people liking them and the horse liking them, that they're not even then able to really make a true connection. So when we start teaching them boundaries and having them observe the horse's boundaries, and then we go and process that with them at the end, they start to be able to actually conceptualize what boundaries are. Now, horses' boundaries may be a little bit more violent than other people, meaning, if, hey, I'm eating my hay and you're sticking your face in my hay, buddy, yeah, I'm gonna give you a quick, shot to the chest with my leg there, and I hope you get the message, because if not, I'm gonna give you another one and then you're gonna back off. Okay. The thing with horses, though, that makes it great in regards to really showing them a healthy connection, and especially with building resilience, is that you don't see any kind of emotional backlash when a boundary is set. So, meaning, like, if one horse is eating, the other horse puts his head in and tries to start eating, and that horse maybe kicks it twice, that other horse isn't going to turn around and be aggressive towards him or go after him. He's just going to turn around and get the message and go, okay, cool, I'm going on to the next bin with hay. All
Okay,
right.
dude,
Where,
that's fine. Yeah, there's no
yeah,
ego here.
exactly. Where with humans, okay, we personalize everything.
Yes, yes.
Oh, why doesn't he like me? What did I do wrong? Okay.
Right,
So that's
yeah,
where, again, where we could talk a little bit more about that boundary setting and that boundary
right,
building, so that they
right,
establish a healthy connection with the horse. Because you have to
right,
remember, people
right,
coming in with mental health, substance abuse issues, they don't have a good grasp of healthy connections, because they're connecting with a substance, okay, or they've had so much trauma that they don't know how to effectively communicate what they need to humans.
right,
So
right,
when
and
we
it sounds like a little emotional regulation going on there too.
Correct. Yes, big time. Okay. Because
Yeah,
especially with horses, the reason why it's a little easier to regulate when you're around a horse is their heart rate is about 50 beats per minute. Humans is, I think, between 69 and 82 is about
Oh,
the average.
interesting. Right.
So your heart rate actually starts to synchronize with the horse when you
So
start
it goes
working with them.
lower.
Yes, which is why people usually say, "Oh my gosh, I feel so
Interesting.
relaxed after working with that horse." And we're like, "Well, yeah, because what's happening is you're starting to create that connection, okay, but on a physiological level with them." All right.
Okay.
So, mhm,
So if you're a timid person
yep.
and you come up to the horse and you're trying to interact, you don't feel bullied. I mean, how do you because you feel probably I'm thinking you would think of them as more of the alpha in the meeting. So how do you help clients that are more timid
Hmm.
step up to,
So, yeah. So what we do a lot of times is we always do what's like so we kind of have them check in first with themselves. So like one of the things we'll do is we'll give them a spiel about why we're using horses. 5,000 years partner with humans, largest eyes of any land mammal, has 340 degrees of vision, has 350 degrees of hearing. It can hear separate things, both conversations and whatnot. And that's just because they're very socially, emotional, and intuitive animals. Okay,
hmm,
so what we'll tell people is when we check in with them, we'll do kind of just an exercise just to kind of get their bodies moving a little bit, getting some fluid to the joints. And then what we do when we do the check-in, we do a body scan and we go through
nice,
like literally from the top of your skull all the way down to the bottom of your feet. And then we start asking them where that tension is in their body. And then when they tell us, that's where we start going, well, okay, well, are you, do you find yourself where, are you usually feeling stressed? Are you usually feeling anxious? What's like a common emotion that you usually find? And the people that are timid are usually the ones that are a little bit more anxious, look at horses
mm,
as, oh my gosh, they're really big creatures. And I'm around like this 1,000 pound to 1,200 pound animal,
right,
and then so what we start really telling them and getting them comfortable with it is, hey, your heart rate synchronizes with them. Hey, horses are here to really please you. That's what they're really trying to do. They're not trying to lead, they're trying to please.
mm,
That's why they've been around and connected with humans for over 5,000 years. All right. And then we have, staff there obviously to make sure everybody's safe. We have professional horse handlers there as well. All right. And really just the first thing is just having people take their time to literally just go up and pet them. And you'll
right,
start to see just from that where we acknowledge how they're feeling, number one. Okay. And then we get them to slowly start pushing past that fear of just, hey, listen, you're
right,
just petting them. That's it. What's that feel like? What's
right,
going on internally? Here's your brush. Start brushing them. What's that feel like? What do you notice about yourself? And the
right,
more that they keep kind of going with it, all of a sudden they start to relax. All right. And again,
mm,
a big piece is their hearts are starting to synchronize.
right, right, right,
So they
right,
just, oh, okay. Hey, you know what? Wow, this isn't that bad. We had a woman during the group that we had in October 30th. She'd never been around a horse in her life, and she was terrified. I mean, like terrified. Like you saw it in her eyes, and I just walked up to her and I was just like, "Hey, listen, like take a deep breath with me." All right, one thing we always say is take a deep breath, feel your feet, just to help ground yourself. Okay.
right,
And I just took her hand and I just put it on the horse, and she didn't pet him. I just put it on the horse and I just held it there. I was like, just feel him. All right. And then I got her to pet him. And then I gave her a brush. And then I got her brushing him. And then as you could
right,
tell, she started
oh,
loosening up. She started smiling a little bit. Then when we went and
nice,
led, a little timid again. Okay, but then we encouraged her, hey, use your energy. When that horse feels that energy, they're gonna feel that connection and know what you want. And by the end of it, she was like, "This was one of the greatest experiences. I want to be around a horse again. I have like no
right,
fear anymore. This is great." So there's a lot of
mm,
different ways of just a lot of it is kind of letting go and watching what happens.
nice,
And then you
nice. So it
start to
sounds like you
see,
help build her trust.
yes, that's the biggest thing that we try to do initially is building that trust with the horse, because that's when then an actual connection can come. If there's no
Right,
trust being built, whether they're too timid and fearful, or they're maybe even too strong, all right, and they're like a little too, intense, all
yeah.
right, that can, mess up the
That was gonna
collaboration.
be yeah, that was gonna be my question for the other side of the pendulum. What happens when you have someone who's, um, I don't know, you might say, I mean, you're working with leadership, you're working with self-regulation. What happens when you have clients that have huge egos, or
AAA
they
personalities. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's a great way to say it. How do you
Yeah.
help them regulate
Yep. So
so
we
they can be
have,
more effective?
yeah. So there was this one woman who AAA personality, very strong personality. Um, and you could tell when she was working with that horse was terrified. Now horses can
Really?
deal, yeah, horses can deal with pain better than fear. I mean, you could beat the crap out of a horse, okay, and it will still come back and do what you want it to do. If you put fear in that horse is terrified. And what we were doing was, like I said before, we have two programs. We have a 1 day program, and then our other program is a 4 day program. Our 4 day program, we teach a lot more horsemanship skills, not just leading. We teach you how to back them up. We teach you how to do obstacle courses with them. We teach you how to do what's called liberty work, where they're off the halter, off the line, and we get them spinning in circles. And we teach you how to do join up with them. So we were teaching this girl how to back up a horse, and man, she was just intense doing it. And we're not like hitting the horse or anything. You're just using your energy and raising your energy up to get them to move. And I mean, I saw it in the horse's eyes. This horse was terrified. I mean, his eyes were just huge. You saw it in his face. He was like, what is going on with this woman? So
Wow.
I looked at her too, and you could just tell she was just like one big ball of anxiety. And I was like, come here. And I'm like, what do you notice about yourself right now? She's like, I'm so anxious. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, are you anxious because of the horse? Are you? No, I had something happen before I came here, and it just got me really pissed off, and I'm super anxious and I'm super frustrated. And I was like, okay, appreciate the honesty. Let's see if we could bring you down a little bit, because obviously that horse, I don't know if you noticed it, but I told her that horse looked terrified when you were backing him up. And she's like, yeah, he did have a
Wow.
funny look on his face. And I was like, yeah, he's terrified of you.
Didn't even
Okay,
notice.
that's what it is. All right.
Imagine what she
So,
does to her coworkers or her
yeah,
husband,
exactly. Right.
her kids.
So, you know, being again trained psychotherapist, I gave her a couple breathing techniques. All right, one of our biggest things is take a deep breath, feel your feet, orient yourself to what's going on. So we'll do like a grounding technique with them, utilizing your five senses. I'll give them a certain breathing technique to do. All right, and then I'll also too, if they're really struggling, I'll do some imagery work with them of like, okay, what's your safe place? What does that look like? You know, put yourself there. Like, so for instance, my safe place is the beach. All right. So if I'm telling myself, okay, I'm at the beach, what do I hear? I hear the seagulls. I hear the water crashing. What do you feel? The sand in your toes and the breeze hitting your face, the warmth of the sun. Why? Because now that's going to bring them down.
Nice.
Okay. And then once you bring them down, now they're a little bit more workable. All right.
Right.
So what is that teaching them? That's teaching them, well, now I'm building resilience with myself of knowing I'm up here and dropping the dial down here. All right. And
Right.
then once we reconnected her with the horse, okay, things were a little bit slower. You could tell that horse was not nearly as fearful, and she was able to do a lot more work with that horse. And you could tell there was a definite connection being built there. And it wasn't
Right.
just her forcefully raising her energy like crazy to try to get this horse to go and do something.
Right. 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 Oh gosh. So what if first of all, I just want to clarify, individuals are walking and working beside the horses. They're not on the
Yes.
horses,
There's no
correct?
riding in our program. It is
Okay,
all
so
about
you don't have to be
groundwork.
afraid of getting bucked off.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. It's all groundwork. We have all professional horse handlers there who can notice even the slightest muscle movement of like, hey, guys, you know what? Back away for a second. He's getting a
Right,
little
right, right.
uppity. Or, even like I was, working with one of her horse trainers there, and we were working a horse, and all of a sudden he looks at me and he's like, he's gonna roll over. And I'm like, how do you know that? He goes, watch. And all of a sudden the horse is laid down on the ground and started rolling around in the mud in dirt. I was like, how'd you know that? He's like, oh, you got to look and, pay attention to like where they're looking and their muscle structure in the back of where you start seeing them tense up, and then you can kind of pick it up. So you can really,
Right,
there's a lot of noticeable things that when you're really connected with that horse, you physiologically pick up on.
right. So do you ever put a AAA person, as you call them, with a AAA kind of horse? Do you try to match them up
No,
or put
it's
opposites
funny.
or
It's funny because when people go to pick the horses, it's so because we don't assign them. We
oh,
go
okay,
pick a
they
horse.
choose.
So when they choose, a lot of times you'll
Interesting.
see people who are more followers pick more of a stronger kind of leader horse. And then you'll see the
Okay.
people who are more like AAA personality, they'll pick more of like kind of like a docile kind of like they know they can
So
pull the
no
reins
obey.
on it and like take care of business with it. It's funny how that works too. And then what I also get a lot of times too is for some reason, whenever we get a lot of women up there, they always ask, "Oh, does he like that? Oh, does he like me? Oh, am I doing that too hard?" Because a lot of women have that caretaker role. All right.
Okay.
So when we explore that with them, sometimes it's a detriment because they're people pleasing so much that they're forgetting about themselves.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's
Right. They
another
do.
just segue to connect them with themselves and understand, okay, by doing these exercises, this is what I'm really calling attention to myself and what I really need for myself.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
And what about stronger males? How does kind of the before and after, what does that look like for them to find that self discovery
So
and
I
have
get a lot of times where guys, um, with that AAA personality, they tell me they don't know how to relax. All right. And listen,
okay,
I'm guilty of it. I work a ton, two businesses, two kids, wife, mortgage, I'm an entrepreneur. So I got investments here. I got real estate there all over the place. So for me to relax, it takes a minute. Okay.
right, right,
But if I
right.
go hang out with a horse, you give me 5 minutes with that horse, I'm starting to chill out. Okay. So a lot of times we'll
Nice.
get guys coming in, like, we had like a CEO come up and, you could tell he was an intense AAA personality guy. And you could tell the more he kind of was working with this one horse, the more you could see him just kind of slowly start to relax a little bit and kind of settle in and not have that like hyper vigilance of I need to control the whole situation.
Right, right. It sounds like you could do some great couples not therapy, we're not saying that, but
Yeah.
couples
Hmm.
just
Couples
time
work.
together.
Yeah.
Couples work. Yeah, do you
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah, so we have three different types of groups that we bring up. We have corporate America, and which is also like our like kind of athletes as well. So we'll bring up like college athletes, up and coming like people trying to get into the pros, just more for like the psychological leadership piece of it. Then we
Okay.
have the mental health and substance abuse one, which I spoke earlier about, and then we have families and couples that will have come up. And a lot of times what we'll see with like families is you'll start to see like the triangulation between the kids and the parents.
Oof, ouch,
um
that's great.
yeah, you'll just start to see that kind of right off the bat of like just how the parents are treating the kids, how the kids are treating the parents, and how the horses start kind of bringing that out. And then again with couples too, you really start to see a lot of times like that power struggle in the relationship,
Mm,
like that
mhm.
just, I mean, that just blows up
Oof.
a lot of times, and you'll see it. And obviously, like, being a therapist for 15 years, I know what I see there is magnified times 10 at home, but it's definitely something that I could take and kind of just work with within the group. And
Right,
again, we talk about the types of connections that they think they have between each other, ways to open up communication between each other from what the horses maybe kind of showed them about themselves, and then just building stronger resilience together as a couple in regards to just taking on life's tasks. So we do offer that. And I
right,
do,
and
and I do find that our 4-day program, which is once a week, that really kind of opens up the can of worms, especially with like the couples and families when we do it,
yeah,
because
that's what I was
there's a
gonna ask,
lot.
how long is probably the best amount of time? So,
Yep.
4 days, how do people usually organize that? But, I mean, first of all, tell us how beautiful because you are in a beautiful part of
Yeah.
Connecticut where the
Yep.
horses what was
Yeah.
the name
So
of the town? Is it
so it's in
Bethlehem?
Bridgewater,
Bridgewater
Connecticut.
is amazing. They make the best chocolates
They do,
too.
yeah. So it's in
Um,
Bridgewater, Connecticut. My colleague has 20 acres.
right.
Her farm is called Trowbridges Limited. You can actually Google that; you'll find her on there.
Yep.
Um, and it's a very
Here's the website
serene,
right here.
beautiful setting. Yeah, that's our website for the equine program. My colleague's website's
Yeah.
also on there.
The area is
Um,
beautiful to go and stay there.
yeah, it's beautiful. It's an absolutely beautiful area. So like our 1-day program is about 4 hours. We usually do it from like 10 to 2, give you guys lunch. When we do lunch is when we do a lot of the processing. We'll talk about the emotions. I have a little curriculum that we do. I call it basically like emotional curriculum. We're basically teaching people, hey, this is the message behind the emotion. This is where you may feel it in your body. This is where you may find it where it's being projected as another type of emotion, but it's actually
Mm,
this. And then we give them, hey, this is a way to respond to it. So, like for
great
instance,
tools.
yeah, so like for instance, like anger, we see a lot of people getting, angry. What does that look like? That could look like rage, fury, depression, anxiety. And really what anger is saying is a boundary has been crossed or you need to reestablish a boundary. So that's really the
Okay.
message behind it. So then it's like, okay, well, how do then we respond to that? Well, we reset the boundary or we set one that hasn't been there in the first place. Okay, so we're
Right.
just really teaching people. So like I was saying before, boundary setting with the horses, okay, like, it's as simple as if the horse is kind of getting in my face like this, I'll just take his cheekbone and just kind of push it away from me. And he knows what's up. He may keep coming, trying to come back in when I'm like, nah, dude, you're not getting in my space like that.
Nice. Nice.
Or if I'm leading him and he's kind of encroaching on my space, I'll just kind of give him a little kind of shove as I'm going, not hard or anything. And they'll
No.
respond to it and they'll keep it going. So our 4-day program, our 1 day, 4 hour program is again, just teaching you about horses, somatic experience, getting you in your body. We usually do a leading exercise and then maybe a team leading exercise. And then we have lunch and talk about the emotions. Our 4-day program is 4 classes, 3 hours each class. We usually do them once a week because we want people to kind of soak it in. All right. And usually when we have people come in the following week, they're like, oh, I realized this. I saw this. I realized that. I was like, wow, I really missed the horses. So it just gives them time to kind of soak it all in.
And
Um,
use the tool. So this is for 4 weeks, you're saying?
Yes,
Once
once a week.
once a
Yep,
week.
once a
Okay,
week for 3 hours.
perfect.
And then what we do again is we do all the somatic experiencing each session, and then each session we do a different horsemanship skill. So we do leading and backing up, then we do obstacle courses, then we do like a nature walk around the farm with them, and then we do liberty work the last time, which is my favorite. Liberty work is awesome because what you do is you get the horse offline, off halter, and they're just running, and you get them in like a bullpen so that they go in circles,
Oh,
and then
wow.
we teach people how to literally get them going by and like switch directions and what part you have to focus on, bringing your energy up, bringing your energy down so that they're either running or maybe they're trotting or maybe they're walking. And then
Right.
what happens is when you lower your energy, and we tell people take a deep breath, feel your feet, ground yourself, the
Mm,
horse will eventually stop, and the horse will
mm.
either then walk up to you, and when you start walking, they'll start walking side by side with you, and when you stop, they stop. Or if you start running, they'll run with you, and then when you stop, they stop. Or sometimes the horse is a little preoccupied afterwards, and you walk up to the horse, give it a pet, and then it starts following you. So
Mm.
really what you're trying to do is to create that connection with them, okay, through energy. All right. And when
Right,
you
right,
create
right.
that connection with them through that energy, the horse is building resilience, and you're also building resilience in regards to learning how to create that connection. So that's like our last session that we do with people. And
Right.
it's just my favorite. The first time I ever did it, I was like, this is awesome. Like I just connected with a freaking 1,000-pound animal like that. And we're just taking a stroll and he's just walking with me. I'm like,
Wow,
this is
that's
great.
so empowering.
Yeah,
Very
totally.
empowering.
Really, really cool.
Very.
Really, really cool. Definitely.
Yeah, I just love the idea of teaching, at all different ages. I remember a long time ago, I learned about how we can react to something that's said or a situation on a couple different levels.
Yep.
One is we can react like we're being spoken to, like we can react as a child
Yes.
because maybe
Mhm.
the way someone said something domineering to us and they sound like a parent to us.
Yep.
So we go into child uh form,
Yep.
um, or we have the adult, which is where we're supposed to be.
Hmm.
But also sometimes we fall into the parent role. We speak to other people like we are their parent, and we
Yep.
expect them to listen to us like they are a child,
Yep.
which makes me crazy. And we see it. We see it in all kinds of forms. We see it in the community. We see it at work. We see it in relationships.
Yep.
And we're not made aware of this. So, what you're you're reminding me of what they say is you always want to come and meet things like you are the adult.
Yes,
And
100%.
yeah, and like we were talking earlier about motorcycle riding, for me, motorcycle riding is I have to remain the adult when I ride. Um, and whether you're, looking at with an animal, it's about leaving your emotions or reactions to the side.
I'd say more reactions to this side. I mean, obviously
Yes.
we want to feel it, but
Yeah,
I have
you
a
wanna
lot of
feel it,
people.
but you don't wanna
Yeah.
have a reaction.
Yes. Hmm.
Just the awareness. And for those that don't understand somatic,
Hmm.
uh, I know what it is, but how do you explain what somatic is? Because it's such an important, grounding, um, especially for those who have been through trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a huge thing, and I don't think people appreciate it that much. I mean, myself, I've been through traumatic, domestic violence. So there were certain things, even to this day, I can notice if there's something uh, that comes at me,
Yep.
I can still feel it to this day, 30 years later,
Yep.
and I still feel a reaction, and
Yep.
I'm just like, "No, that's not real, that's not," and I can bring it down very quickly,
Yep. It's
but
your trigger.
there are traumatic experiences that we have,
Yep.
and, to somatic, so explain to,
Yeah.
our listeners what somatic is and
So
how important that is.
yeah. So the way I like to explain somatic experiencing is specifically with trauma, right? So somatic experiencing is having a physical reaction to an external stimulus based off of something that happened to you in your past that stuck with you. All right, so now what do I mean by that? The analogy I like to use is this, right? When you're driving a car, okay, we're not trying to like name everything around us. We're not going like, oh, that's a Ford Focus, that's a Chevy Camaro, that's a tree, that's a bridge. It's just passing through us. Okay. When trauma happens, it doesn't pass through us. It gets stuck. Okay. So when it gets stuck, that's when your body starts to experience certain somatic experiencing. Okay.
Mm,
So I have a bunch of medical trauma from when I was like 13 months old. I had a C2, C3 spinal fusion. I was all my life going to doctors, making sure I was growing correctly, looking for certain symptoms, making sure my spinal cord wasn't being compressed, all this stuff, right? So everything's cool. I'm not a quadriplegic. I body build, great, awesome. Well, I just had knee surgery on Friday. Well, you bet Thursday night, all right, yeah, I had some dreams about being on the operating table, and apparently I was screaming in my sleep. Okay, now what is that? That's a type of somatic experience. Okay, because my body is anticipating
yeah.
that trigger. Okay, so when it's anticipating that trigger, that is the type of experience that I have. Okay, with horses, okay, horses help us be able to understand that somatic experience because they are so much in their bodies. They aren't in here. We're all in here all the time. Why are we
Yes,
all
yeah.
in here all the time? Because that's what gets us rewarded. Corporate world, finances. Oh, look how smart he is. Everybody's forgetting about the whole bottom part of you, which is your body. Okay. And your
Right.
body is always going to tell you
True.
anything before it actually is going to happen. Okay. So, our goal when we have people come in is okay, let's just move your body. We do a whole like joint fluidity thing where we're literally just getting people roll their wrists, move their fingers, roll their ankles. Why? Just to literally like feel those parts of your body.
Mhm.
Okay. And then when we do the body scan, we start from like your scalp. We go, what do you notice behind the back of your eyeballs? Where's your tongue
Mhm.
sit in your mouth? Is it like you're
Mm.
sucking your teeth? Because why? Because then that's stress. Where are your shoulders? Are they up by your ears? Are they down
Mm.
here? Like we just literally scan the whole body. Do you feel tightness in your chest as we're talking about your lungs or your heart?
Yeah. Are you
Do you
breathing?
breathing rate? That's another thing too. You've seen people that aren't breathing. We're like, why aren't you breathing? Oh, I forgot. Like, so any kind of thing that's going to create some sort of physiological response for you, okay, is a type of somatic experiencing. The whole point of our program is that people understand what those trigger points are but we're not reacting as strongly to them. Kind of like
Mm,
what you were saying, where you're like, I notice it and I can bring myself down quick. That's the whole point with the horses, is for them to recognize, hey, wow, this came up for me. I'm talking about it. How am I reacting to it? Is this reaction appropriate? And if not, how can I bring myself down?
right, right, right. And I just find that this is so, like, when I work through, I have this program, it's called Throttle Up, and the beginning is all about getting to know yourself
Yep.
and what, where you're coming from, where what areas you're stuck in. And because of part of transition, and you so beautifully said earlier today that you're not going to move through something if you don't really want to.
Correct. Yep.
And
Definitely.
whether you work with people for addiction or all kinds of things where people get stuck, or maybe it's just moving through the next level at your career
Yeah.
or relationship.
Yep.
If you don't really want to do it,
You're not going
um,
to.
you're not going to do it.
Yep.
Right. Like, you can't help someone. I can't help someone if they don't really want to move on.
hmm
But it doesn't have to be all or nothing either.
Correct. There's a lot of
Just
gray
be
area.
willing, yes, just be willing to go up to the next gear kinda
Yeah.
thing. Um,
Definitely. And if there's,
yeah,
change is always unexpected. There's always going to be different things in regards to change. Okay. But the way in which our program can help people learn how to cope with change and not look at it as such a bad thing, just looking at it as it's just different. All right. I have
right.
so many people, whether it's in my equine groups or in my office doing psychotherapy, where when I say, when I say the word change, what do you think of? Bad. And I'm like, what makes you think of it as bad? Well, XYZ happened, ABC happened, whatever else.
Uh,
When in reality, change is just different. Because I tell people, well, think about it. At one point in time, everything that you were doing right now was uncomfortable for you. But you
mm,
kept doing it over and over and over again to where it got comfortable. That's change too. And then you
right.
see them have the light bulb go off sometimes. They're like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, the pain, it's not that bad,
yeah. hmm
to kinda shift gears. You just have to do it little by little, and like you said, next thing you know, people are like, "Oh, I am further than I was. I'm
Correct.
walking out the door more experienced and less fearful an hour or 2 later, or 4
Yes.
hours, I think,
Yes.
and that's all it is.
Yep.
That is what the change, that's how you get change and may move your way through transitions. Don't say I have to go from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And I
No.
love
Mhm.
that you help people, move through that. So, let's see. So how can people find you? I know you have, how can
Yeah.
they get a
So,
hold of you if they'd like
yeah.
to find out more about the program or
Yeah.
working with you? And
Um,
especially with the winter, do you still run the same programs in the winter?
Yep.
Which is,
So
I
we
think
run them.
winter is
Yeah.
a deep and a fantastic time to do soul searching. I
Yeah.
always like to focus on the winter as, everything else around you falls away, like the leaves,
Yep.
and now it's time to hibernate and do some self-discovery, and I think that this is a
Totally.
great season to go
Yeah.
deeper.
So I mean, I'm therapy wise, I have an office in Darien, Connecticut, constantly
Okay.
doing therapy. You can check out the website, theromatherapy.com. And then with our equine programs, we do them year round. We have an indoor arena at my colleague's farm that is heated. It's not like 70 degrees in there on a cold day, but it's in the 50s and stuff. So you come up, throw a hoodie on, wear long pants and boots, come hang out with some horses. So those are all year round as well. And that website is theturningpoint860.com. So if you want to learn a little bit more info on our program and what we offer. And just lastly, too, we also, my colleague, she has a bunch of horse trailers. So we can actually come to you if there's, a barn anywhere near you that are willing to have us maybe rent it for a couple hours for the day. We can actually bring horses to you. We actually, over the summer, were able to do our program at Silvermine Farms in Norwalk, Connecticut. They gave us Mondays to come and run our program if we wanted to charge a certain rental fee, and we would bring the horses down and run our program there. So if there's any in the area, we'd be more than willing to try to work out a deal with other farms so that we could bring our horses there and do our program there, as well as my colleague's farm in Bridgewater.
That's great. Thank you. And one last thing I wanted to ask you, because so we have a listener and he doesn't live in state. So
Okay.
I have a quick question. If you're too far to come and visit you and the horses, what's something someone can do if they have a friend who has horses that would be just comforting to go and visit? Would you go visit a horse farm or
Yeah, I would say more
walking
of like a
or
horse farm, definitely. Go check it out. There's different horse breeds, so I mean, some of them are going to be a lot more in tune than others. I mean, if it's a quarter horse farm, they're not the most intuitive. It's kind of almost like Eeyore, but if they
Hey,
have some
Mr.
like
Ed, wasn't he? I
yeah,
don't think he was.
yeah, if they have like Arabs or half Arabs, I would try to go maybe just again go up to them, pet them, see what's up. They're
Wonderful.
usually a little smaller horses too. Arabs aren't that big, so less intimidating for some people than
Right,
like if you're standing there looking at a Clydesdale, like that's a big horse. So
right.
just stuff like that. Trying to get around them, groom them, pet them. Um, Anything like that, you'll definitely notice yourself start to just relax, synchronize heart rates, and that could definitely help just kind of be a place of peace. I mean, I know for myself, whenever I get a couple hours on a Saturday, I look at my wife and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to the farm. Bye. I'm going to hang out with some horses. I'll go work a couple horses that she has. There's one specific one I kind of like. I've been working with. Do some groundwork with them, groom them, wash them and stuff. So just stuff like that, you could definitely go do.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you, Rob, for joining us,
Thank you.
and I'm gonna come see you in a couple days up at the farm,
Awesome.
and I
Looking
look
forward to
forward
it.
to riding up there. All
Awesome.
right? You
Sounds
have a
good.
great day.
You too.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.